Don't worry, America. Donald Trump heard you and your polls loud and clear. He's turning a new leaf. Yeah, he's not. He's continuing to attack the United States Supreme Court. He's continuing to attack people that are even in his own voter base, like the proud Hispanic and Venezuelan community. He's now gone on an emergency application, yet another phony emergency application to the United States Supreme Court to try to pressure them and stampede them into ruling in his favor that he's allowed through Kristi Noem to deport 600,000 or so Venezuelans because he claims they are all scum. They are all criminals. They are all gang members, and they should not have been given temporary protective status by the Biden administration. All of that is a lie and completely inconsistent with the position they're taking in another case involving the Alien Enemies Act. The temporary protective status that they have is because the country they come from, Venezuela, according to the Trump administration, in its filings about Alien Enemies Act and Abrego Garcia, is a terrible place. It's a place where the government has been completely taken over by a narco-terrorist gang called Tren de Aragua. It's a terrible, terrible place, and all the people that are from there are terrible, terrible people. But temporary protective status means the country that you're coming from is war-torn or is unstable or you're going to suffer political retribution. But now Donald Trump says, no, everything's idyllic. It's a Garden of Eden in Venezuela. We can send them all back and violate the Congress law and the statutes and the Constitution in doing so. We can pull the rug out from under all of these hardworking Venezuelans who are contributing to our economy by billions of dollars, right? Who don't commit crime, who are more educated than the average American citizen. We need to get rid of those people, and they're allowed to go home because everything's great in Venezuela. Wait, I thought everything was terrible in Venezuela, and we're at war with Venezuela, and these people that you're sending to the gulags in El Salvador reflect the criminal element, and they are enemy combatants. Which is it, Trump? Get your effing story straight. I got my legal AF and story straight right here on Legal AF. So I'm going to continue to talk about the new emergency application. Number 12, if you're counting at home, if you're playing the Donald Trump's abusing the Constitution home game, 12th emergency application. It goes up through Justice Kagan. I'll cover it all here on Legal AF. While I take a breath, take a moment, hit the free subscribe button. Help us continue to grow this pro-democracy channel. With your help, we already rolled the odometer to 600,000. We're going to go to 1 million before the year is over. This is the fellowship and a community you need coming off Rule of Law Action Day just yesterday. You guys know about the rule of law and how we can put it into power and protect it and protect the Constitution. And if you haven't gotten your fill of Legal AF, which I haven't, we formed a new Substack, Legal AF, the Substack. At the end of this clip, you'll see a promotion for it. Join us there as well. So let's get into what just happened. And why did it happen? So Donald Trump's strategy on full display is to try to avoid the normal Supreme Court appellate process. Ignore that. Don't go the normal route. The normal route, for all of us that have watched it for 35 years or longer, is that you lose an issue on a case below. You take it to the next level court of appeals. You win or lose there. You then take it up by a writ of certiorari, a request or permission to the United States Supreme Court if they think it's interesting, if it's a constitutional issue or there's a split among the circuits and therefore they have to resolve it, and you make a request. Please, will you take my case? Now, out of the tens of thousands of cases that happen state and federally around this country every year, civilly and criminally, the Supreme Court only takes 60 to 70 cases, usually even less than that. In the Trump era, it'll be probably closer to 75 or 80. You'd think it's more by how outsized its impact is on our culture and our society and our rule of life and our rule of law and our way of life. But it's just that many. And even on many of them, you won't even care about them. Oh, they're going to change some sort of small permitting issue, or there's some small change in this area of administrative law. But on about 30 of them or 20 of them, you're going to care. And these are the ones where our Constitution lives or dies, right? The 5-4 decisions, the fight for the soul of America at the Supreme Court. So when you do a normal appeal, which Donald Trump doesn't want to do, then you ask permission. And then the court looks at its docket and strokes its beard, its collective beard, and says, that's very interesting, or that's not very interesting. And then we'll see you in many, many months. And you file your brief, and then we'll get your opposition brief, and then we'll get your reply brief. We'll have 3 giant stacks of paper and the record, and we'll take a look at that over several months, and we'll set the oral argument for 5 months from now. And then we'll have the oral argument, and 5 months after that, we'll issue a ruling after we've worked in the hallways with each other, gone to coffee with each other, and lobbied each other, and circulated draft opinions, and had our law clerks go talk to your law clerks and have pizza day, and then we get a ruling as votes flip and flop and switch, and people are lobbied and that kind of thing. Donald Trump doesn't want any of that. What he wants is instantaneous, reflexive, knee-jerk, ideological opinions and votes. So he knows he's got 4. 80% of the time, he's got 4 votes. Doesn't matter what it is. Who wants to go to Sweetgreens? 4 votes. Who wants to take over, Venezuela? Who wants to ignore the sovereignty of another country? 4 votes. Alito, Thomas, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch. Yeah, occasionally Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, once or twice a year, peel away and do something surprising for me. But generally, they vote as a block. They walk in lockstep, and that's the block. Trump also can count. He knows that the other 3, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Alina Kagan, and Sonia Sotomayor, they're just 3. There's 2 in the middle. It may be right, but it's in the middle. And that's Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts. We got to count to 5. They got to count to 5. We need 5 votes. They're starting with 4. We're starting with 3. We need 2. Guess what? It's Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett over and over again. We call it the Amy Coney Barrett court now because she votes in the majority more than anybody else. She is the swing vote by definition. Donald Trump doesn't want any of that. He just wants them to go into their respective corners. I got 3 there. You got 4 there. We fight for the 2 in the middle, and let's do it on limited briefing, limited record, no reflection, no time to think. See, this Supreme Court, most Supreme Courts, don't operate well when they're pressured. Don't operate well when they're stampeded into making decisions. Yeah, that's why they have this ponderous, deliberative, tortoise-like process, where they can stroke their beards and gaze at their navels for long periods of time. That's what they're used to. So when you pressure them, right? When you make, let me see if I can use a sports analogy. When you make a team that's really good at full court basketball, right? Run a half court offense. Sometimes they're not so great in the half court. They're good in the long court. They got all their plays. But then it's like, no. We're not doing 5-on-5 full court basketball. We're doing 3-on-3 pickup right now at this end of the court. It's like that. And they don't do well. But it avoids for Donald Trump the lobbying, the vote switching, the talking to each other, the slow deliberative process. There's only 2 pieces of paper, not 3. There's an opening brief, and then the court gives the other side a brief. Maybe there's an amicus friend of the court brief, but that's also rare. There's no oral argument. There is no oral argument. I just did, and we've done 2 oral arguments now here live streaming on this Legal AF channel, which we're doing now regularly. We just did one at the United States Supreme Court 2 days ago about the last brick in the wall between the separation of church and state and whether taxpayer dollars are going to be used for religious charter schools or not. And so that's oral argument. It went on for almost 2 hours. I think it's fascinating to listen to, but there's no oral argument on emergency applications. Donald Trump doesn't want oral argument. Read the briefs, make the decision. And instead of getting like these 30, 40, 50-page decisions, or even more by the Supreme Court, we get like a paragraph or 2 paragraphs or a page. It makes it very difficult, but advantage Trump. That's why he just filed his 12th application. Now, what are they trying to do on this one? They're trying to argue that Judge Chen, a San Francisco-based trial judge, was wrong when he found that the decision by Kristi Noem to overturn Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas under Biden, when he made the decision to extend for another 18 months the protection over about 300,000 Venezuelans, because they can't go home again, because they'll be politically and violently ostracized and attacked. When he made that decision, she said, no, I'm here 15 days. I know more than you. Rip it up. That was done arbitrarily. That was done capriciously. That was done with animus, meaning hatred for a group. You can't go on television, Christie and Trump, and call the Venezuelans scum that need to be taken off the street and then turn to the judge and say, we don't have any racial bias or hatred. We just made the decision because we promised the American people that we would deport everybody. Yeah, there's a disconnect there. Judge Chen said no. If you look at this group of people from Venezuela, proud, hardworking people, many of which are related to Venezuelan American voters who had thought they were going to support Donald Trump. But I would encourage you, especially those in Miami, I'm looking at you in Doral, I'm looking at you in Weston, I'm looking at you in Miami. Those are your uncles and aunts and cousins and friends and things and people you're not even related to that you call your aunts and uncles. Okay, I'm looking at you. See yourself in their eyes, and then you'll understand how depraved what he's doing is. So Donald Trump likes to call, all Haitians, another proud community that's been maligned, are eating pets in Springfield, Ohio. All Venezuelans are member of the Tren de Aragua, narco gang. Enemy combatants, get rid of them. The judge took a look at all of the facts and said this group is more highly educated, is less violent, doesn't commit crimes compared to regular Americans. They're more educated than regular Americans. They contribute billions of dollars to the economy, and you're pulling the rug out from under them under some false pretense that you're allowed to reverse what a prior secretary just did. And so John Sauer, who used to be the criminal defense appellate lawyer for Donald Trump, filed his brief in which he says, well, you're not allowed under the way the Congress set up this bipartisan program in 1990 under George Bush, by the way, a Republican-driven program. You're not, the new secretary is allowed to undercut what the prior secretary did and reverse the policy. No, she is not. And that's not what the case law says, and that's not what the precedent says. And then they point out of context to a provision in the statute that says there shall be no judicial review of a certain issue, to say there shall be no judicial review of anything that the Trump administration does in immigration. That's a lie. That's a lie. And if that was what the language was, then that would be a violation of the separation of powers and the checks and balance system. Supreme Court's now going to have to rule. Now, I think this is a weird one for Donald Trump to press his luck on, coming off of a 9-0 decision against them on immigration, in which they said 9-0, you must facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia. And we're still like 65 days out. And he still hasn't done it. And a 6-3 decision in which they said, ground the planes. Sorry, 7-2. Ground the planes. Don't send anybody else to El Salvador without due process. And we'll get back to you on when you can start the planes again. Based on those back-to-back decisions the last 2 weeks, now he wants to press deporting innocent Venezuelans back to Venezuela, which is completely inconsistent with his argument in other parts of his court cases, in which he said, oh, Venezuela has been completely taken over by a criminal narco gang called Tren de Aragua. And then on the other hand, he's saying, no, they can go home. Everything's safe. Send them all back. It's a criminal state. They're criminals. Yeah, not according to the Constitution, they're not. So I'm going to continue to follow this story, the use of the emergency application and how successful it's going to be. Now, if I'm Justice Kagan, who's the first justice on the train, she can make this decision without anybody else. She's given the other side, the Coalition for Temporary Protective Status, until the 8th of May to file their brief. And then she can either make the decision on her own, and I think she will and should, done. Start sending a message to the Trump administration to stop bringing phony, we know what you're up to. Stop bringing phony emergencies here to stampede us into a rash decision without deliberation. She can put an end to it right now and start pushing back and saying, no, denied. She does not have to send it over to the full panel. But we'll see what she's going to do. My bet is that she rejects this outright and leaves. She does not allow these deportations while, again, this is only the issue, while this appeal continues. If down the road they want to take the full-blown appeal up to the Supreme Court, they'll address it then. We'll continue to follow it all right here. You're on Legal AF. I'm glad you're here. Hit the subscribe button. And again, come over to our Substack. Till my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.